If you ever watch a mini painting video and the model goes from looking meh to wow, that looks great. And you're like, wait, what did you do that made it go from looking like ass to looking amazing? Why didn't you show me that step? Well, today I'm going to attempt to show you that step. This is the fourth year in a row I've invited you to join me on my Golden Demon painting journey here on YouTube. And I gotta be honest, at the very beginning, I kind of thought these series would be doomed to failure. After all, why was nobody else doing this? Was it because not enough people care enough about intense Golden Demon projects like this? Was it because no one wanted to share their behind-the-scenes painting in hopes for some competitive advantage? Or is it because that painting to the best of your abilities is incredibly difficult on camera? Now, I'm not sure about those first two, but I am certain that the last one holds true. So let's do that today and explore what are the most difficult things to paint in any miniature and why they're so tough to tackle on camera. And we'll attempt to do all that while tackling the most important part of this Golden Demon project, the troll. Now, at a recent painting weekend, I completed the troll's head to about 90% done, and I did an initial wet blend of basic colors across the entire troll's body. This gave me a roadmap to the pale bits of his tender flesh and the bluish rough scaly skin. And that's where we're going to pick back up today. This skin looks fine, the blends are largely placed where I want them to be, but I have to remember that I can't trust my eyes here. This paint does not have full opacity, which means we need to do this entire blending step yet again. And it's important to note that by doing this again, we're not going to screw up or greatly change that first process. What we're doing is building layers of paint on top so we completely overtake that primer color underneath. It's so much harder to boost that color vibrancy to create an eye-catching paint job if we start with a weak base. When doing steps like these, I like to keep the number of paints I use to a minimum, so it's easy to do basic mixes so these transitions aren't overly complicated. Now, I realize that each time I'm placing paint during this second pass, it doesn't look like I'm making much of a visual change, does it? That's because I'm not trying to change the colors on the model. I'm trying to reinforce them so they're less patchy in spots and we get full opaque coverage of this base tone. And as you look at the model after this second layer, you're probably thinking that it looks basically the same as it did before I started, and you're not wrong. But the point is that each time we do one small improvement along the way, the better our final product's gonna get. And that's one of the biggest takeaways I've had from my years of experience with Golden Demon. The more I can hone these initial steps, the more they act as a strong foundation for the rest of the paint job. Now that we have that strong foundation to build off of, it's time to have some fun with color. We're going to bring in some realistic tones to add depth to this hide, and I'm going to do that through tints. I thin some interesting green, ochre, and red paints way down with water to make a glaze. Basically the consistency of dirty paint water. I start placing these colors in spots I imagine color variation would naturally happen for our troll here. For example, this guy can't bathe too often, I imagine, so he'd have some nasty buildup of dirt, grime, and God knows what else in his hard-to-reach areas like his armpits and folds on his flesh. He'd also have warmth in his flesh in the same areas that we as humans do. Any spot where the blood flow is very close to the surface of the skin, like hands, elbows, and knees. This is probably my favorite part of the early painting process of any figure. It's not about exactitude, it's about experimenting with color and seeing how light changes in tone really bring the model to life. And then we get to the first major hurdle of this project, and more specifically, something that's very difficult to film. You see, this guy has wonderful craggy skin in some areas, and I imagine that the cracks actually show the light, fresh flesh below, which means I have to paint that innermost razor-thin line into these cracks with a bright color. I did a bit of this work off camera first, which is something I'll often do to make sure I can paint those really fine detailed lines and position my camera in a spot where I can capture it without screwing it up too much. I've got to find the perfect painting position, hold the model in just the correct place, and have an unshaking hand to run these lines. And placing the camera in just the right position to capture those shots while I don't move the model at all during the painting process so you can actually see what I'm painting. Well, most times this is doomed for failure, at least for me. which is why I record 3 to 4 hours of painting footage per video, because hopefully there's 15 to 20 minutes of good shots in there somewhere. The general consensus among my very talented miniature painting friends that also create videos is this: you can paint your best, you can paint on camera, but you can't do both. But I did give painting these cracks the old college try, so hopefully you get to see how this is done, of just kind of tracing the interior of each of these cracks with the paintbrush. If only this was the hardest thing I needed to paint on camera for this video. Alas, it most certainly is not. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get to that soon enough. Now, I painted all these cracks the same off-white color because I wanted a bright color foundation that I can tint later on and add some more variation of colors. But if I started directly with, let's say, a red in those cracks, because they were directly over a dark color, that red wouldn't show very good, which is why we did our one line with a bright off-white. Again, I go back in with my very thin down glazes of the sickly green and red to add some color interest to these cracks. I vary it up a bit on different parts of the troll, as I imagine he'd have some variation across different sections of his body. I'll be honest with you, at this step, I actually don't like how these cracks are looking. The way that this tinting over the top looks is not impactful enough for me, but instead of getting frustrated that I spent all those hours painting cracks just to kind of screw them up, we're going to move on to a different section and worry about this later. In order to define the craggy shapes of his hardened hide, I need to create some depth through paint. Basically, this means I need to edge highlight all of the raised parts before it falls into the crack. Unfortunately, I quickly realized that this isn't actually edge highlighting. You see, there's no crisp defined edges on these shapes because they're organic and the slope into the crack is more gradual. Also, in order to show the depth difference between this raised, thicker hide and the light line I painted in the cracks underneath, there needs to be some of that darker base layer still showing between those two areas. So what I need to do is run the outline of that upward facing edge, but keep enough of that shadow color showing between that highlight and the crack underneath. That way we create that depth. The trick with all of the fine line work that I'm doing today, both here, those off-white lines before, and the even more insane step I'm unfortunately going to have to do next, is twofold. First is the brush. You need a brush with a nice, super sharp tip, but you don't want a teeny tiny brush. You want one with more of a belly to it, so more of the paint can be housed in there, and that way the tip of your brush doesn't dry as you're running down these lines because that belly is holding your moisture and paint. And two, and equally if not more important, is having the perfect paint consistency for detail work. The paint needs to be thick enough that it doesn't fade away after we draw our line. We want the paint opaque enough that it shows well in just one coat. But it needs to be thin enough that it smoothly and evenly leaves our brush when just that tip is dragged across the model. Now, how do you create this magical paint consistency? Well, it's done more by feel than it is by recipe, but let me try to talk through it. I begin mixing in water to my little puddle of paint bit by bit with my brush. As I swirl my brush around after adding a bit of water, I'm checking the paint's consistency. As soon as it gets thin enough to where it starts to feel more like water than it does like a glob of paint, I stop adding water because I don't want too much water in here so the paint will be too transparent. I then take the paint that I think is now to the correct consistency, put it on my brush, and draw a nice thin line across my thumbnail. If the paint is easily leaving that brush and creating a nice thin line that, once dried, is still opaque enough that I cannot see all the way through to my thumbnail, we're where you need to be. Online security is more important than ever before, so I did a lot of looking to find the VPN that was right for me. And I gotta tell you, I am so glad I went with Surfshark, the VPN that keeps you safe, private, and in control of your digital life. With Surfshark, I browse the internet securely no matter where I am, whether I'm online shopping, I'm just checking social media, or streaming my favorite shows. Surfshark hides your IP address and encrypts your connection, protecting you from hackers, trackers, and snoops. And since I can no longer trust large organizations to keep my data private, I can at least sleep securely knowing that I can control that myself. Worried about restrictions? Not a problem. Surfshark lets you access content from all over the world, bypassing geo-blocks on streaming platforms like Netflix, YouTube, and more. Plus, there's a camouflage mode to make sure no one knows you're using a VPN, even your own internet service provider. And the best part for me personally is the value. Surfshark is affordable and it allows unlimited devices on just one account. It is so nice to be able to manage and protect all the devices in my household in just one subscription. So please do not put off taking control of your online security one day more. Go to surfshark.com/ninjondeal or use code ninjondeal at checkout to get 4 additional months of Surfshark VPN. Remember when I said I had an even more difficult step to paint in this project? That is now. Now is where we have to do that part. What I want you to do is take a look at these 2 troll legs here. The first one is where we're at in the current part of the painting process. The second one I've done with 1 extra step. Can you tell what I did in this second leg? Or does the first leg look just as good as the second leg? All right, let me break down what I did and why we're in this predicament. You see, when we work at such a small scale with our miniatures, we need each shape and volume really strongly defined. Otherwise, it kind of becomes visual noise because we can't define each of the shapes and where one thing starts and another thing ends. And that's what's going on with this model currently. There's not enough definition between those deep cracks or the raised areas. The way to fix this? By darkening that super thin line between the edge highlight we just did and those lowest, brightest cracks. So I've got to run a super thin line of paint between one super thin line of paint I did and the other super thin line of paint I did and not screw up either of those super thin lines. Now, in hindsight, if I would have known better, I would have done this step right after that initial wet blend. I would have gone in and defined the edge shadows amongst each of these craggy regions. Then I could go back in over the top of that and put our off-white crack lines in right over this darkest shadow. But you live and you learn. Every new painting project is a new experiment, and I screw up on every single one. So today is nothing new. So we're going hard mode here. That's whatever. That's just how life goes. If you wait until you know the exact right way and steps to approach a paint job, you'll never start. So just get your hands dirty and figure it out as you go. And this is really the prime example of something that's incredibly difficult to paint because of the fine line work you're doing, and even more difficult to show on camera. And one of the reasons why is I'm really kind of struggling to find a perfect, comfortable painting position. I often feel like I'm in that last scene in Star Wars where I'm running my ship right down there trying to avoid the walls and the laser beams coming from the TIE fighters. So
use the Force, Luke.
I wonder if Disney's going to sue me for using 7 seconds of that film. You know, I find that I end up moving around a lot to get comfortable when I'm doing fine detail work like this, which makes it kind of miserable to paint. And while this model isn't exactly huge, he's big enough that I turn him around a lot, and it makes it much more hard to find a comfortable angle to pull a nice straight line. Now, I painted most of this step leaning off the side of my painting desk, which is something I've never actually done before in miniature painting, but it's just like when you're tossing and turning at night when you're trying to fall asleep and find that most comfortable position, you just keep moving until you find something that feels good. When you find it, just stick it in. I mean, just stick the paintbrush in the paint and put the paint on the model. That's what I meant to say. Now, at this point in the paint job, I have spent days painting this skin, and it doesn't feel like I'm super close to the end. So what I need is a small victory here. I found that you need these throughout a big project if you ever hope to complete it, because they give you those small feelings of, okay, I can do it, this is starting to look better, and those moments are what reinvigorate you to continue. I haven't spent a lot of time on his really pale, fleshy bits yet, so I want to push those as far as I can because I'm really looking forward to working on them. I go back and forth between layering up highlights and glazing in interesting shadows. Light colors with white pigment in them work better, only slightly thinned with water, while darker, richer colors benefit from thinning and slowly building up much more. I work on his knees and chest first because I want this flesh to feel more soft and vulnerable. I keep the warm tones in, the shadows and the folds, and slowly ease my way up to a full bright ivory color for the highlights. Now, it's okay to go too bright here with your layer consistency highlights because you can always pull them back and add more color depth with your glazes as you go. If you don't go bright enough though, you aren't creating enough drama to really make this skin give that impression that it feels different than the rough hide sections. His pale chest and fun belly are important to the overall scene because it's going to draw you in to the troll as a central figure. This was so fun to paint because it's not this teeny tiny little thing, but there's more wonderful texture and lines sculpted in that I feel like I have a guide to understand where light and shadow would play across this surface. Oh, take a look at his shoulder on this shot. I went back in with a brighter pink and redid all of those cracks to brighten them up and clean them up. Yes, I'm a masochist, but sometimes you need to repaint something a couple of different times to really get it where you want it to go. When I feel like these soft, fleshy sections are about 90% done, I put my brush down and I take a look at them. I'll put that last 10% of work in once I get the rest of the hide to 90% so I can see how they all work best together. And as I spend some time working on his cute little chubby toes, I'm realizing that a full week of nonstop painting on this guy was not enough to finish his skin. So I make the decision not to rush it, just to get it all done before I need to edit this video, so I can be sure that I'm happy with how it turns out and that all those hours were worth it. I'm not happy with how far along he is, but I am happy with how he's looking. I'm excited to continue painting on this skin because he's starting to feel alive. He's starting to feel like a real nasty, gnarly swamp troll. You know, over the years, I've gotten more comfortable painting on camera, but damn if it still isn't a pain in the ass at certain points of the process. I need to hurry up and invent the bionic eye so I can just record on video everything that I'm looking at. Then it would be problem solved. I'm left eye dominant, so I'd pop out the right one with a spoon and then put the implant in on that one. I've thought this through. If you're watching this over the holiday season, a happy holidays to you. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate each and every one of you for spending any amount of your free time hanging out with me on this weird little hobby channel. And if you like what I do and you want to support me, you can check out the Ninja on Patreon link below. You can see my weekly behind the scenes videos. Join us over on the Discord. You could also pick up a Ninja shirt, hoodie, stocking hat, and other stuff at my merch store below. And finally, you can go on out to deckofmanycolors.com and pre-order your deck. I do have an exciting update. We are officially gone to manufacturing for the Deck of Many Colors. This is our last major hurdle to climb for the Deck of Many Colors, which means that once these things get manufactured, they will be mailed out to you. And yes, manufacturing does take a bit of time, but by the end of Q1 2026, we should all have them. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to painting my troll. But don't worry, I'll be back again next week with another new video. Just make sure that sometime between now and then, you find time in your day to slay the gray.